Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be sharing another poem with you from my poetry portfolio, Stretch Marks, which is a portfolio that is centred around people who have been affected in various different ways by a lack of reproductive rights in Ireland. It's called The Confessional, and at the end of the poem I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it's written, the form that's used, why I think that form is important, and just what this poem is about for me. I haven't got this one memorised as per usual, so I'm going to be reading it off my laptop screen, so apologies for the lack of eye contact, but this one is called The Confessional. Sat on a pew, my legs crisscross. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I practice and repeat. Remember encounters from before, from when I was a girl and he gave Holy Communion to me. Despite anonymity, he'll know it's me. He must have known before. Once again I've sinned. He will be cross. He will repeat, and he will call me a silly, sinful girl. As I wait, I spot another girl from school. Our paths cross, but we've never spoken before. Is she here for the same reason as me? Has she sinned? Chews skin around her nails, sighs, repeats. Rehearse the line I must repeat. I will cry when he condemns me. Enter and make the sign of the cross like every other silly, sinful girl and try to spit it out before I'm mute. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Onward through the decades I have sinned, and I am no longer a girl. I teach young ones who, just like me, make mistakes and repeat. But now the sea is easier to cross than it was before. These stories you've heard before, and stories will repeat. So when I meet a fragile, fearful girl muttering, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," I remind them he forgave me and has never once been cross. Girls who have sinned like me should not fear the cross, or they'll repeat what came before. I don't normally do like a post-poem commentary on my work on this channel, but I thought I would for this one because I thought hearing a little bit about how it's written and the form would be useful or interesting to some of you. So it's not something that you can necessarily tell when it's read unless you are like a poetry form expert, but this is written in a specific form. It's called a sestina. So a sestina, if I can try and explain it without like the use of a diagram, is a type of poem that is made up of 6 stanzas that have 6 lines each, and the concluding word of each line is repeated in the following stanza as the concluding word of a different line. And then at the end there is a 3-line stanza in which all of the 6 repeated words are repeated once more in those 3 lines. So in The Confessional, the 6 repeated words are cross, sinned, repeat, before, girl, and me. I think the 6 words that you repeat in a sestina should be important. And while I had a lot of trial and error when it came to selecting the words that I was going to use, I was really happy about the ones that I ended up using. So the word cross, for instance, I thought that was a really good word to use, both in terms of it being relevant, like the multiple meanings of the word being relevant, but that's also very useful in a sestina, having words that have different meanings and different usages. So obviously with cross, we have like the action of things being crossed, we have anger, and we also have the religious symbol. The word sinned, obviously feeding into the religious discussions. Repeat and before, I think, were particularly relevant because this is something that has gone on for a really long time in Ireland. It's not something new. The discussion around abortion rights is not something new, and the negative effects of a lack of reproductive rights is not something new. And that emphasis on repetition was something that I really wanted to focus on in this poem. I'll talk about that more in a sec. The word girl, I think, is another one that's fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, it is not just young women or girls who are affected by a lack of reproductive rights, but in this particular poem, I did want to draw attention to how young some people are who have to either go through pregnancies against their will or have to go through the difficulties of going to another country to get an abortion. And then the word me, it's a very personal experience for every woman or girl that goes through having an abortion. So I thought the word me was a good one to choose. So I want to come back to the idea of repetition in this poem. The repetition is something that I'm repeating throughout it. Not only in the form we have the repeated words, but there are also certain phrases that are repeated. So forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's a phrase that almost it rolls off the tongue. I think when you grow up Catholic, it's something that you end up saying without necessarily thinking about what you're actually asking. And also silly sinful girl is another phrase that I ended up repeating in this poem. And the reason I used so much repetition in the poem was because I did want to emphasize that, you know, it's a generational problem. It's something that keeps happening over and over again. In a lot of work that you read that is about abortion in Ireland, it is very anti-religion. And there are a lot of poems in my portfolio that are anti-religion, although I would say more anti-organized religion. I just wanted to have a poem in there that was about the reconciliation of those two things, you know, being someone who has had an abortion and being someone that is religious. You can be that. That person does exist. And I wanted to present the deity as someone who would not be angry with someone for having an abortion. So that was the confessional, and a little bit on the background of writing it and the style that it's written in. Are you interested in seeing me like unpick my own poems? Is that really self-indulgent? I feel like it might be slightly self-indulgent, but the writing process for this was really interesting for me because I normally do quite a rhyme heavy spoken word kind of style of poetry, and to do something with such a restrictive form was a really interesting and valuable writing experience for me. So yeah, let me know down below if you would be interested in hearing me talk about my own poetry when I read it. We also now have a date for the Repeal the 8th referendum, and that is going to be on the 25th of May. I'm trying my very best to get the time off work and trying to scrape the money together in order to get home. So fingers crossed I will get all of that sorted, and if you are able to vote in the referendum, please do get your butt out to your polling station. It is super important. We may not get another chance like this again, so we all need to pull together for it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about today. I do hope you're having a good day, and I will talk to you guys in my next video.